Hey guys, are you ready to transform your mind so you can transform your life? Coach Myrna brings you one-on-one coaching and expert guests weekly to help you to grow. Because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy goal.
Looking for personal growth? Let's do it. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling superfood smoothies or offering organic omega-3s, Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform got you covered. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
Welcome back to the Transforming Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna, and sitting in the guest chair today is Alison Carmen. Alison and I are going to be talking on the topic, the gift of maybe, how to embrace uncertainty. You know, a lot of us, especially women, always want certainty, even men, right? But in the olden days, women would marry men because of certainty, and they would go into jobs because of certainty. But what we want to do is we want to interrupt that pattern of you thinking that certainty is a gift. So that's going to be our conversation today. And it's very true. You know, certainty leads you down the road of maybe mediocrity, because in order for you to elevate, you have to have some uncertainty. You have to take risks. And that's basically how people become billionaires. They have to take risks. So that is what Alison and I are going to be talking about today. So stick around to the end, because hopefully you will walk away with some nuggets. Welcome, Alison.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Alison Carmen is an author, podcaster, business consultant, and the chief financial officer and general counsel of the Motherhood Center of New York. Alison's books include The Gift of Maybe, Offering Hope and Possibility in Uncertain Times, and A Year Without Men, a 12-point guide to inspire and empower women, published in 2021. Alison's top-rated podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering, focuses on helping people alleviate daily stress and worry. Alison is an active contributor to many prominent online newspapers and magazines, including Psychology Today and The Daily Beast, as well as a sought-after speaker and radio guest. Alison resides in New York City with her 2 daughters. Check her out on the web at AlisonCarmen.com. All right, Alison, I'm interested in this conversation as well. But I'd like to start off with your journey. I understand that you stumbled onto the Maybe method after suffering from anxiety. I didn't see the word depression, but just anxiety. So tell us how your anxiety led you into this work.
Okay. Well, it started when I was very young. My parents were nervous. Everyone around me was nervous. They had anxiety. So what I did is I started to look for certainty. And when I didn't have it, if I was worried about a grade or worried about a boy, I would ruminate. I would feel unhappy. I could not lift myself up above the worry. And this continued. And when you live in a state of worry, what happens, like you were speaking about it in the beginning, is that you look for certainty. So what many of us do is we write a story. When this happens in my life, then I'll be happy. When that happens, so I wrote the greatest story of them all. I'm about 14 years old, and I decide that I can handle all this worry and all this anxiety because one day I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to get a job at a very large firm. I'm going to marry this fabulous guy. The balloons are going to come down, and then I'll have peace. Because a lot of us believe that when something in the outside happens, then the peace will be ours. And we don't realize it's our conflict with uncertainty that's causing us the anxiety and the worry to begin with. So I was still anxious, but in my mind, I was like, one day I'm going to arrive. So I go to law school. I meet the guy who I thought was wonderful at the time. And I get that job. And I actually remember walking to work my first day, actually feeling the day has arrived. And sure enough, the second day of work, my office mate comes in and he says to me, Alison, do you hear they're firing half the first years? And I was a first-year lawyer. And they ended up not letting me go. But that was it for me. There was something about that moment that made me realize that there was no certainty in life. But I had no tool for it. So I kept drowning in the unknown. So I just became more anxiety-ridden. My health was affected. I couldn't sleep. I started to have immune system problems. So I thought, well, okay, this didn't work out. So I was in a panic and I left the law firm and I kept looking and looking and looking. And then one day, I went vegan, I did yoga, and it does calm you. But if you fear the unknown, no matter what you do, life is going to show up and you're going to fall off in some way. And so one day decided to take up Qigong, and this Qigong teacher tells me this beautiful story. It's a Taoist story. And perhaps you've heard it before, your listeners might have heard it before, but it changed my life. And it's about this farmer, and he has a horse, and the horse runs away. And his neighbor comes by and says, you have the worst luck. And the farmer says, maybe. But the next day, the horse comes back with 5 mares. And the neighbor comes by to the farmer and says, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. But the next day, the farmer's son is on the horse. He falls off and breaks his leg. And the neighbor comes by to the farmer and says, you have the worst luck. And the farmer says, maybe. But the next day, the army comes to take the son to war, and they can't take him because his leg is broken. So the neighbor comes by and says to the farmer, you have the best luck. And the farmer says, maybe. So in the Taoist tradition, it means things are neither good or bad. But for me, all of a sudden, I felt a pop in my chest, because every time the horse ran away, anytime something bad happened, I never imagined the other possibilities, the other opportunities. I never saw uncertainties, anything other than bad. And most of us do that, right? If we don't know what's going to happen today, it's going to be bad tomorrow. If we don't know what's going to happen today, things are never going to work out. We're stuck. Life's not working out. So for me, this idea of maybe just kept reminding me of that. So I went home that day, and I had already left the law firm, and I was like, oh, I don't have enough clients. And I started to play with this idea. Well, if I don't know, it's expansive. And there was maybe, and maybe kept hitting against every problem I had. So maybe is like the hope within the unknown. It challenges our need for certainty. It challenges because it asks us, are you certain that fear is true? No, the beauty is we can't be certain of life, but we can't be certain of pain. We can't be certain of fear. We cannot be certain of anything that we're projecting in the future. So this idea of maybe just flipped it. So if I don't know, that means other possibilities exist other than my greatest fear. And that became the maybe. And it was my little secret. I was not telling anyone. And then the 2008 crash happened. And all my clients, I was a business consultant at the time, and I was doing life coaching. Nobody could get money. Nobody could get loans. Everybody was going out of business. And as hard as you tried, if you were doing what you did yesterday, there was no path forward. So I would go in and try to teach the clients, well, we could do this, that. Nothing worked. And then I started to tell the farmer story. And I started to teach people about maybe, because I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. It was maybe that helped them get through this crisis. And all of a sudden I realized it's not the outer world. It's the inner world. It's our fear that we're not okay. That's all we want to know. Everyone wants to know they're okay. And that's why they seek certainty. But they don't realize that that's a limiting, painful way to be. But when you flip it and you see that life has maybe, and uncertainty is the place, if you want your life to change, it has to happen in the unknown, then you're living in a different field. So that was my experience. And since that day, it just keeps it alleviates your anxiety. You become more present because you're not worried about the future. And then you become more creative. And it changed my life. And the fact that I was forced to share it in 2008 was the beginning, and then it just keeps flourishing. So that's my path, and that's my story.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, I identify with the 14-year-old girl. One of the things my daughter did as well is, I don't know if she wanted it to be stuck in stone, but she had something like what you had. She had it on her wall. Our pastor taught in church that you should have goals, and she wrote out all her goals and had it on her wall. And she didn't get to, because her goals changed as she got older, right? Those are her goals when she was like 14 or 12 or something. And then as she got older, something just hit her, and she changed her whole direction and trajectory. But we are taught to write out your life.
Yeah.
So what you did at 14 wasn't that unusual. What is unusual about it is that it caused you anxiety, right? That if it didn't happen, right, then you couldn't find peace. And that's different. I mean, I'm not quite sure if it's something that you said your parents were anxious, right?
Oh,
said,
yeah.
right.
Yes, very.
He was anxious. Right. And that's probably where you got that anxious and that anxiety from. But yeah, when I was growing up, we were taught that, if you didn't have a husband, then your life is, let's for a better word, the shit. And you started getting anxious, and because you wanted that certainty. And that's where the direction I was coming from about security. If we call it security, if you got the husband, you've got the white picket fence, and you've got this life that you've imagined, and when you don't have it, then you don't have that security. But yeah, I have heard that story, but I didn't remember it. As you were talking, I remember parts of it, but I love that because that's a great teacher. The great teacher, like you said, that things can be good or bad, right?
And there's always hope. There's always hope. Also, going back to the woman piece, it's so interesting what you said when you were also starting the podcast, is that in my experience, men and women fear the unknown the same amount, but it affects women more. Because our path is not equal, because our path's not the same, if we're not willing to engage in uncertainty, we're more limited. Because we don't always get the corporate job. We don't always get the board seat. We're told that we have to be married, where we're told what we need to do. So it's even more important for a woman to have a good relationship with uncertainty, because every choice you make in life is dependent on your relationship with the unknown. Who you're going to marry, the job you're going to take, whether you're going to be independent. And the only security we have in life is the inner safety. Like, I had that life. And one day my husband walked in and said, bye. And I literally, I thought that was forever. I was one of those people. And so,
yeah,
and then you're faced, do I want to become bitter? Or do I want to expand? Do I want to love bigger? Do I want to be bigger? But that's only if you're willing to love the unknown. Because if you seek certainty, you go back to what you know, you go back to a limited way, or you go back to what society is going to tell you is good. So women and uncertainty, it's I think the most important relationship women have, other than to themselves, is the relationship with the unknown.
Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. Usually, improvements don't come overnight, but once in a while, one small fix can catapult you to the next level. If your commerce platform is holding your business back, You owe it to yourself to see what Shopify can do for you. Whether you're a garage entrepreneur or IPO ready, Shopify is the only tool you need to start, run, and grow your business without the struggle. Shopify puts you in control of every sales channel. So whether you're selling satin sheets from Shopify's in-person POS system or offering organic olive oil on Shopify's all-in-one e-commerce platform, you're covered. And once you've reached your audience, Shopify has the internet's best converting checkout to help you turn them from browsers to buyers. Sign up for $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/transform, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/transform to take your business to the next level today.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Do you have a tendency to compare yourself to others? Does social media play a part in that? What do you do when you get caught up wishing your life looked like someone else's? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. One of the benefits of therapy is that a therapist can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/TYM today to get 10% off your first month. That's BETTERHelp.com/TYM. Yeah, I have never been bitten by the certainty bug, because one of the scriptures that I ruminate on is the one that says, like fish caught in a net, you never know when trouble comes. So just love that.
I love that. I'm going to write that down. I love that one.
That's it. Yeah. But just like you're feeling so good to be getting the job of your dreams. And then you're told that, they're firing all the first year it always happens. You're in this job but it happens from the bottom and the top. You're at the top level and they're firing the top level because they don't want to pay you. And you're at the bottom level because you just got there and they're firing the bottom level because they need to downsize. And you're right. You talked about 2008. That's, people now have a couple of references about bad times, whether it's 2020 with the pandemic, and you went back to 2008 when the market crashed. Oh boy, that was brutal. That was brutal. So I can understand business owners and what you never know what's going to happen. Everybody lost everything, most things. You lost your clients, people lost their businesses. And the only thing you can be certain of is that, you're still alive and hopefully you can build again. Right?
Important moment of your life. People don't realize it. They think it is a beautiful moment when you get married. It's a beautiful moment when you have a great opportunity. But the most important moment of your life usually is when things fall apart and what you are and how you react in that moment. And again, if you seek certainty, you don't always learn the lesson, and you just keep trying to rebuild what you have. You can't see that life has spoken and life is bringing you in another direction. So those are the moments where if we think about beautiful scriptures that, like you just told me that wonderful quote, or the idea of maybe that's the moment where your life really elevates and you really change. It's not easy, but it is one of the most important moments of your life is when things fall apart. Is it a beginning, or are you going to keep the road of certainty going, or see that there's a vast unknown world waiting for you? So it's so interesting.
Yes, is very true. So this is a great conversation because it's expanding, the listeners' minds on the fact that, we can't be certain of anything, so trying to hold on to it is, you can only hope, right? And hope is good.
But you can live in the maybe, which is a gorgeous, maybe I look at as hope without attachment. Like I could not get out of bed in the morning without hope. Like I am a hope junkie, but you can't attach to how it's going to be. And again, we do it not because we're bad or weak. We do it because we want to be okay. We want to know our kids are going to be okay. We want to know we're going to pay our mortgage. But there's a difference between a hope and it has to be this way. And that's where a lot of us get lost. If we could just say, like, your daughter's like her lists and dreams, it's okay to dream, but we have to hold it loosely and know that life is going to do what life does. And if we could be maybe and we could see it as lessons and possibilities, then we're going to be on our path. But if that fear dominates, that fear of the unknown, we're going to shut down and limit ourselves.
Yes, I agree. So that's great. Now, Tony Robbins talks about this, if you were to Google the human needs or 6 human needs, he's going to pop up because that's part of his coaching methodology. He always talks about the 6 human needs. Now, I'm not going to go into all 6 of them. You guys look it up, or maybe I'll put it on the show page. But one of the needs that he talks about is the need for certainty, right? So it is a basic fundamental need. So even though we're saying that, the maybes are good, but you have to break out of the paradigm because, like self-preservation, certainty is kind of built in to the human needs. But I think, that, I can put it in certain tiers, like certainty that, when you come home, you're going to have a house, certainty that there's going to be, food in the fridge. So, which is basically when he's talking about human needs, things that we need to survive and to elevate is the need for certainty. So we are talking here about women especially can thrive by embracing their relationships uncertainty. So give us an example of how women that, normally wants a partner and children and whatever, because our culture is telling them that this is what they need to be certain. Yeah. So how, give us an example or a model of a woman that is using uncertainty and breaking out of that mold for certainty.
Well, I can really interestingly give you my own story that I did the whole certainty thing. I did the marriage, I did the kids, I did that life. And I really thought that the last thing, even then I'm teaching everybody about uncertainty and I'm an uncertainty teacher, but in the back of my mind, I don't even think I was aware of it, that marriage was certainty. That relationship was certainty. Never in a million years did I think that it was going away. And when he told me he was leaving me, I actually, just like that moment I heard maybe, I actually felt I cracked. I just didn't know how to exist without that marriage. So I bought into the story, and then I thought that there is no certainty. So what's happening is we're being sold a story that's not even true. That's the biggest problem, that it's twofold. We're told that there's certainty in the marriage, right? And then if we do break out of it, we don't have the same opportunities. So it's kind of like there's a rub there. But for me, because of literally because of this idea. And, when he told me he was leaving, I went into the bathroom and I was crying and I picked up my book and I started to read it. And on page 6, I listed my biggest fears. And in the book, it said, would my husband always love me? I wrote that book in 2014. I was like, why did I write this? And so I thought to myself, if that's happening and it's in the book of maybe, that means I still have maybe. And so I think what happens is that we're told to give ourselves away. that there's something that will keep us safe. But the only thing that keeps us safe is ourselves and our belief and our own abilities and our own lives and the uncertain road. We have to know that just because we don't know doesn't mean we're not okay. It doesn't mean that things can't get better. And that's what maybe did for me. So what I did is I took this life where I was married and I was working a little bit, and I just embraced the unknown. And I have to tell you today, my kids are flourishing. I have this great job as a CFO general counsel. I never worked for anyone like that before at a day hospital where they serve women. They treat women with postpartum. I mean, it's a miracle job. I work with 50 women and I write. I just got a book deal. I just got a TED Talk. But the only reason it's happening is I let go of the life that I was told I needed. I let go of what the world was asking of me, and I went to my truth and I accessed my heart, and I wasn't afraid of the future. So that for women, it's like you have to not be afraid of what you don't know. And because many women are not going to make it in corporate America. They're going to have to start their own businesses. They're going to have to be more creative. They're going to have to work harder. But if they see themselves as full of potential and they know when things don't work out, it doesn't mean they're not okay. When things don't work out, it doesn't mean there aren't possibilities. It's that maybe that because you don't know, you still live in a world of infinite possibilities. I have a feeling that's the way you live. I have a feeling you dig it. You dig uncertainty. That's the vibe.
Yeah, well, the thing is, yes, two is better than one. In fact, I was just telling my mom that last night. Two is better than one, and it's always good to have a partner, right? But if you don't have a partner, you have to learn to depend on yourself, right? So when you're putting your certainty in another person, I don't know why I'm going back to scripture today, but there's another scripture that says that is not if man is going to disappoint, but when, right? So you going into a marriage, you going into a job, you going into all these things and putting your certainty in other people and other things, then the only thing I think you should put your certainty in is yourself, right? So what is the language that you told yourself when you went into that bathroom that day? What did you tell yourself? That you can make it without him, that there's no certainty in life, you can make it on your own. What was the language that you started to tell yourself to get out of that pump?
I so appreciate that question. I actually did the exercise, the first exercise in the book. And I asked myself in that moment, I said, what is your biggest fear? And my biggest fear was I was going to die without him. My biggest fear was I could not make it on my own. So I'm in the bathroom crying, writing on the book. I'm afraid I can't make it on my own. I'm afraid I'm going to die without him. And then, just like the book asks, are you absolutely certain those fears are true? Are you absolutely certain it's going to happen? Because I wasn't sure. Like, I still thought at the time that maybe we could work it out. We can go to marriage counseling. So I was fighting hard. And then I wrote the maybe statements down. And I did write. I was like, maybe we'll go for marriage counseling and things will be okay. And then I started saying, maybe I could be okay without him. Maybe there's something left in my life to experience. Maybe I just kept, maybe I could afford my life. And then I went back to maybe we'd stay together. So all I did was I gave myself the possibility that I didn't know for sure I was going to die. I didn't know for sure I wasn't going to make it. I was barely able to breathe. But there was this idea that maybe there was something else other than this one idea that I had to be married to this man to be okay. And so I gave myself possibility. And that's what maybe does. All it does is it says, what's your biggest fear? Are you absolutely certain it's true? And if you're not absolutely certain, what else is there? So the fear could stay, but then the maybe comes in. So I had a fear, but I had like a little breath. I knew deep within me that maybe I can do this. And that's all I had that day. And sometimes that's all we have is like this little light. But I believe if you give someone a little light, it'll grow over time.
Would you like to offer your support for reparations for people of African descent to compensate for slavery and racial oppression? StolenFamiliesOfAfrica.com is a site that allows you to make a statement with your clothing. They offer sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, and t-shirts with the words Stolen Families. Support the call for reparations by ordering and wearing your clothing proudly. Why reparations? Restitution is the form of reparations for numerous ignored descendants of slavery living in America. Show your support in black and white at StolenFamiliesOfAfrica.com.
I had no absolutes, and I would have sold my soul in that moment to stay in that marriage. But I did have that light, Yeah. I did have that little bit. So maybe it does that. Maybe it's like that whisper, and it reminds you, if you're not absolute, something else could happen.
And so, yes.
I was very lucky in that moment. Very lucky to have that.
Yes. I am glad I asked the question because to me, that is the most important statement that we're going to have in this conversation is that, when things happen, right? When the certainty or the rug has been pulled out from under you and you no longer have the certainty, then you can start saying, maybe this is better for me. That's what I would say. Maybe there's someone better behind the door. Maybe I'm meant to walk this path and to show that it's God. You know what I mean? Maybe those type of things, and you start trying to, encourage yourself.
Right.
That's true. Because other than that, you fall apart and you say, I can't make it on my own.
Yeah.
I've had this self-concept that I need to be married to be significant, things like that. Right. So, so I like that. I like that. Right.
Yeah.
So, any circle back on that?
But also what's so interesting too about maybe is that you still get to experience your feelings. That's what's so cool about it. Like, I was in a lot of pain. I was so broken. So I wasn't sitting there saying, I'm going to be positive. I think if you fear the unknown, you can't stay positive because eventually the unknown is going to get you. But if you allow yourself to feel your feelings, but know maybe exists, know that the unknown is your best friend, you get to feel it, you get to process it, and then you glide into it. So for me, the pain was really great, but at the same time, I knew there was maybe. I knew that life would change. I knew that new possibilities would come. I didn't know what they were, right? But the fact that I
never did.
But the fact that I got up every day, and knew that I had maybe, and sometimes maybe in the beginning was ordering an omelet to make sure I ate, and then they become bigger and bigger. So it's we have to allow ourselves to have our experiences, but we have to remember that the empty becomes full and the full becomes empty, and there's a flow to life, and we have seasons in life. And so I think maybe it's just this beautiful way to remind us we're not stuck, we're not doomed. We could feel what we want to feel, but there's always hope on the horizon if we allow ourselves to we avail ourselves to it. And for me, and for every woman, and again, the other thing I wanted to point out is that when you look for certainty, we sometimes settle for less, right? Because if we're looking for certainty, we might not marry the person that's closest to our heart. If we look for certainty, we might not take the job. If we look for certainty, we might not pursue the degree we want. And so certainty is tricky because it makes you think there's a safe route, and then you go for less, and then you find out there was no certainty anyhow. So for me, it's better play in that unlimited field and expand yourself. You're more likely to achieve things if you don't seek certainty. You're more likely to achieve things if you have that resilience and self-love and you're connected to your authentic self. So that was another thing too. It's like certainty, you end up with less money in your pocket and less love in your heart. That's how
as you were talking, because I keep going back to it because that was been my experience with women in certainty, right? And I'm glad that your story kind of highlights that, because it is going to be the time that most women go for the certainty. For instance, you pick the man that you think that is going to provide for you better, right? And then you leave the one that your heart tells you, right? The one that you really care for and love, but you think that he's a bum. And you go for the one that you think is because you want certainty. And then guess what? Right? It doesn't work out, right? And then you try to run back to the bum and he's gone.
And then where are you? Like, can you make a living? Like, when my husband left, I had a small business, but I was looking at my life and I was like, how am I going to finish raising my kids? How am I going to own this apartment? Like, I was not ready. That's another thing too. It's like, even if whatever you do, you always have to be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
Right. So that was another thing too. I think a lot of women, they buy the certainty story. And again,
right.
Like, no judgment from me. I am one of them, but always have to have a way to take care of ourselves and love ourselves. And so that's another thing too, that the certainty story also disables a lot of us, right? Because if you buy it and then
there's no certainty. So you find the certainty story, but there really never a happy ever after ending. Rarely.
Well, the happy ever after is knowing that you could trust yourself no matter what.
Right. But I mean, the certainty story.
Right.
You pick the man and the marriage ends. You pick the job and either you got tired of it or they fired you or whatever you think that's certain. There's no certainty. So this is a fantastic conversation. So now we've labeled a lot of things for women, but we have a few men watching. So what are some of the negative ways that certainty affects men and women? Right. I'm thinking of not taking risks. Is that part of your main?
Oh, absolutely. Like we just talked about, like you have something that you want to do with your life. So I find this a lot at any age, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And this whole idea that, I'm out of time, that I have to, this is what I know. This is the best I can do. We have all these ideas, and certainty limits us. It just does, because we think if we choose door A, that's going to be enough. We're always going to be able to pay our mortgage. We're always going to have what we need. And two things happen. One, like we said, life chooses, and often there was no certainty. But to me, the even harsher part is to not live a passionate life, to limit yourself for something that you didn't even really want. And to me, that's the worst feeling. Like, to me, to live a life of meaning, to live a life of substance, we have to be willing to take those risks. And those risks are all about uncertainty. It's all about believing that just because you don't see it in the moment doesn't mean it's not possible. So it's kind of rising above what you see, rising above what the moment's showing you, and believing that uncertainty is your best friend, because if you want your life to change, it has to happen in the unknown. So it's twofold. We choose less, or we choose something that has no certainty to begin with. But the worst is to not live a heart-based life where you're truly connected with what you want. And it's a lose game, but that's why maybe saves me, because when I get caught, when I get afraid, when I see something is limited, or I feel stuck, or things aren't working out, maybe just reminds me, don't be a fool. Like, this moment will change, and there's an infinite playing field if you choose to go on it. And maybe it's just my practice. There are many different practices, but certainty is, it limits us in all different ways, men and women, not just women. It's just, I find women need to be more creative about their choices. But yes, anyone who has fear. I actually had much more male clients for many years, and they danced with maybe all the time, changed their lives.
Right. Yes. Well, it's me, Amy, and I put it in a box. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but the certainty for women is usually based on family and the men and marriage and the dream of the house in the suburbs and the white picket fence kind of thing. And the men dream of a business. So then a lot of times, you have to come to the decision, am I going to stay for the paycheck? Right? That's certain. I know that every week that I'm going to get this money. Am I going to branch out on my own where there's no certainty? Right? So to me, that's why I think, that if there's no risk, right, there's no reward. If you pick certainty, then you maybe have that job with that paycheck and you probably live a mediocre life. But if you branch out on your own, then look at the possibility. I like that word. Look at the possibility. Look at the maybe, right? That you can give up certainty and embrace uncertainty. And, using our topic today, maybe, maybe that I will do a whole lot better with the uncertainty of my own business than the certainty of being employed. And maybe that job might not be around for forever. You know what I mean? Maybe they will come and, downsize, was the big word, which is the big word still. And definitely was the big word in when the market crashed, right? So, all right. So let's expand their consciousness a bit more now on this topic. I mean, if we want to use the powerful statement that uncertainty is a gift, what are we using to back that up?
The one thing I just want to back up one sec, that I just also want to say that even if you love the job, the lack of maybe, like I've seen people who think they're going to have this job till they retire, and they lose their pension or they lose the job. And even in those moments, it's how you show up that it, you thought you'd always have it. Okay, that's all right. But what do you do when you lose it? People tell the story of doom and gloom and unfinished and I'll never get another job again. I'm too old to start something new. So you could even be an employee. It's just, we have to remember that when things don't go our way, that's our story. And even if it's painful, and even if this was the best part of your life and the next part you don't love as much, there's still something. What is left for me to experience still in this lifetime? So even when things are hard, you lose somebody, that job, there's always maybe. If you're here, there's breath, there's hope, there's maybe. So it's about going on your own, but it's also about your daily stresses, your daily disappointments. We don't know. And even if we do know, we're here. So we have to look at what's left, right? And what's possible. So just the framework that you're never doomed and there's always something else to experience, even if it's not your preference. But if you're breathing, there's hope. So yes. So, so the next question was, and I apologize, the next question was...
Sorry. Now, you say that uncertainty is a gift. So I'm saying let's expand our consciousness and accept that statement. What is the foundation that we're using on that? Because again, certainty is one of our human needs. So how are we going to say that embracing uncertainty is a gift? How are we spinning that?
Well, what's so funny is that I think I rub up a little against Tony Robbins' six series. I think there are maybe human needs, like in order to exist, that we need food and we need water, but we don't know the home is. We don't know what's going to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? We never know. Why uncertainty is beautiful is because we all want to be okay. We all have dreams. We all have things that we want in life, but life often chooses for us and we can't control everything. And why uncertainty is beautiful, because it's always there for new beginnings. It's always there for new possibilities. It's always there for us to remember that if I don't like my life today, I can create something new, or something, really tragic happened in my life, but life will keep changing. Like I said before, there are seasons. And so uncertainty offers us always something new every single day, even the way you walk, who you're going to meet, tasting a new food, going somewhere new. It's not knowing. That's the juice of life. And even if you think about it, like if someone told you today all the bad things or the things you didn't like that were going to happen, you would have made other choices, right? That would have had other things. And the game is not safety. The game is not uncertainty. The best life is to realize that we live in an unlimited playing field. And the more you engage in the unknown, the more creative you're going to be, the more present you're going to be, and the more heart-based you're going to be. And for me, all of my success over the last 6 years has been my willingness to live in maybe. Because I could have went the other way. I did want to hide under my bed. I could have given it all up. I could have been sour. I could have had 1,000 stories, but I really believed in maybe. I said to myself, after all the heartache, okay, this is happening. And I know that uncertainty is filled with unlimited possibilities. And I just wanted to engage. I said to myself, I want to have the best life that I could have. And the only way for me was remembering that uncertainty is my best friend. So when I don't like what's happening, take a deep breath. I accept, because we have to accept what is.
Yeah.
I'm grateful what I could be grateful for. And I remember the unknown is filled with beautiful possibilities. Ones I love, ones I don't love. But the fact that I could love, I'm good. So it's acceptance, gratitude, and maybe. And for me, I never thought I would be happy again. I never thought I'd be abundant again. And without maybe, I probably wouldn't have had the same kind of courage. I think I would have believed a little more in the doom and a little bit more in the limitation. Like, who am I at this age in my 50s? Who am I to create abundance and greatness and come out into the world? And I just believe nothing other than maybe in us. So that's how I see it. And I see it for everyone. I don't care how old someone is. My parents, I just moved them up from Florida, 89 and 91, to this place in Jersey. They make new friends every day. How is it possible that an 89-year-old and a 91-year-old meet new people every day and have friends? Because we move them to a place, the right place for them. And even at that age, they're making friends. They're learning basket weaving. Like, we are the limited story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Listen, that's why this show is called Transform Your Mind, because it all starts with your mind. Everything that we do starts in our mind. So yeah, you could, I'm reading this book, talking about cancer stories. And, as we were talking, this woman that, just got this horrible, second diagnosis of cancer. And her response was to go into the closet and fall in a heap on the ground and bawl for like an hour or something. And then she said to herself, just like you said, I got to get up. I mean, so you accept the what is happening to you, and then you don't let it defeat you. You
Right.
have the maybe I can beat it. Maybe it's not a death sentence. Maybe, whatever she told herself, but she got up out of that closet and, she ended
If you're
up
not
getting cancer. So,
If you're not absolutely certain that your fear is true, if you're not absolutely certain you're never going to find another job, if you're not absolutely certain you could never find love again, then there's something else to it. And there's the maybe you can, or maybe there's something else. It takes you out of that story, of I can't do it. It can never be different, because you can't be certain. That's what I love. It's like, why are we only certain about our fears? Like, there's nothing that's certain. So that means your
false evidence appearing real. There's nothing true about it.
It's true. So worry is not certain. Fear is not certain.
Yes.
Nothing is certain. But that works for you when you're going through a bad time.
Yes.
The fact that nothing is certain.
Yes.
Thing of the world, but
You're right. So I get the point that it is a gift. It is a gift, because even, you get this bad diagnosis from the doctor. You're not certain. Maybe, they're not certain. They're just telling you what they, I heard someone say that they tell you this doom and gloom because they don't want to be sued. So they tell you this stuff, but they're not certain, and, yes, I love it. So I love that there is a gift in certain, because if you were certain, then there's no gift. You're sinking to the bottom, right?
Right. And
yes, I love it. I love it.
You can also enjoy the moment. Like, to me too, is like the fact that we don't know we give up today because we're so worried managing tomorrow. But the minute you realize life has maybe, your mind settles and you also become very present because nobody knows. And this moment is so gorgeous and beautiful. Even painful moments come with beautiful things. And we miss it all because we're so busy managing the doom and gloom of tomorrow. So there's also a presence in it, because think about when you're not worried about tomorrow, you end up
enjoying the present.
maybe it's also a presence practice.
Enjoying the present moment.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So your book is called The Gift of Maybe, Offering Hope and Possibility in Uncertain Times. I would love to get you back to talk about your second book, A Year Without Men. I love it. Why not talk about that today? But all right. So I am normally the question I ask is, why did you write it, and what do you want readers to walk away with it? But I think that we've covered that, extensively. So what else do you want to say about your book?
Well, I think one thing I'd like to say is that this idea of maybe, it sounds so simple, but it's very deep and very profound. And sometimes the simplest, least complicated thing changes your life. And it just reminds you all the time when you're afraid, when you're stressed, when you're worried, when you're doomed and life's not changing and you can't make it work. You remember that this is just one moment in time, and it doesn't mean that your dreams aren't real. It doesn't mean life's not going to get better. It means nothing other than this one moment. And if you could engage in the maybe and question your fears, your life will open up and you will really start to have a better quality of life. You'll have more presence and you will experience more possibilities because you're going to avail yourself to that. So simple, but so amazing. So I just hope that, people will think about this, because any time in your life you could let go and suffer less, that's a good day. That's a good day.
It is. Yeah. So the gift of maybe. I love it. I love it. It is truly, you've convinced me that is definitely a gift. And once you embrace it, then you open up all the possibilities, right? And when you open up the possibilities, then you're happier. You're definitely happier because you're not closed off and you're not stuck. All right. So awesome. So tell our listeners how they can connect with you. Your book is on Amazon, but maybe you can tell us about your website and your social media handles.
Oh, sure. You could find a lot of my work on my website at AlisonCarmen.com. I am very active on Instagram at Alison Carmen, and on TikTok, I think it might be Alison Carmen 01 or something. I'm not even sure. But I also have, a great stand store on there with my newsletter and my other books and the maybe cards that I just came out with. And just really, I try to stay active and just sharing, because there's so many ways that we could suffer less. And my podcast, which is 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. So just there's a lot of information out there, and all to just help people live better every day.
I love it. Yes. Now you offered to send me your maybe card. So maybe we can plug it here a little bit. What does the maybe cards do? Is it like giving you
right here?
Right. Is it like if something happens, then you got a maybe statement? Is that what that is?
What's beautiful about it has an instruction booklet, but what's really beautiful about it is that the cards have different statements on them. So like, let's say your biggest fear was, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job, or I'm afraid my boss isn't going to like the project. And what you do is, like, you look through the cards, like maybe this will turn out to be a blessing, or maybe my thoughts are not true. And they're so pretty. And what you do is you actually put them out by your computer. So we don't realize how often during the day we become negative. So for me, I mean, you could journal. You don't need to buy the cards. But for me, I love the cards because I put them by my desk. So that statement is always with me. Like, maybe my thought about this is not true, or maybe I'm still okay. So it catches me. So all that negativity, it catches it. And so I stay more in a maybe state all day long. But people do that through journaling. But for me, the cards, I love them. I hang them up.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that is good because, when we cycle into our negative, we call them ants, automatic negative thoughts, it's very good to have a visual Maybe I love that. I love that. So can't wait to get my copy.
Oh, I cannot wait. And I'm so happy that you're going to have them. And I want to hear about your experience with them. But they're like my favorite thing. And I just also sold a book that I wrote a long time ago about maybe in parenting. So that'll probably be out in the fall. That's also really exciting because that's another area where we need everything to be okay. We need our kids to be okay, but we don't realize that we'll always be attached. But part of the suffering as a parent is our need for certainty. And so if we can handle that with a little more, maybe we'll suffer less, we'll be a better parent. So that's also been a really fun area to play around with because you can't walk away from that. So it's interesting because I do a lot with business, but parenting has been another area where it maybe really helps a lot.
Hey, it just flashed through my mind that you're an excellent billboard for the maybes in life. You came from your husband walking away and you thinking that you can't live without him. And now you're living, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. So it's beautiful.
But I got to tell you, without maybe, yeah.
That's right. Without the baby, right? She could have a different experience.
Yeah.
So, which is really why a lot of times we just need the tools, right? This is why we have podcasts, which is why we have books to encourage people, to give them the tools, because life is going to hit you. That scripture that I shared earlier, the one that says, like fish caught in a net, you never know when trouble comes. It is a life thing that you should embrace because you never know. I mean, listen, you can be a marathon runner at the prime of your health and you go to the doctor and the doctor says something. You could be thinking that your marriage is so great and your husband comes home one day, or it goes the other way. If your wife comes home one day, right? Or, you can give 50 years to your job and then one day they fire you. Nothing is certain in this life. So yes, the way that you show up for those moments, this is another tool, using maybe if there's a blessing in it, maybe just like the story that Alison shared with us, the mayor ran away. He came back with more. His son fell off, broke his leg. He couldn't go into the army. Even though I think the army is a good thing.
Right. That's a little, yes. I always pause at that part of the story, but it's
right. I really admire the army, but people look at it as you can die, right? So I understand the part in the story where they're saying it's a good thing your son's not going to war, because back in the day, the chances of coming back from the war was probably slim. But this is another tool. It's definitely great. Go ahead and pick up a copy of Alison's book. I will have a transcript of my conversation with Alison on the show page, which is myhelps.us. Link out to her website, link out to her book, and also link out to her Instagram channel. I don't do TikTok, and it might not be around for too much longer. So I will link out to Instagram. I spend a lot of time on Instagram as well. So that's great. So Alison, this was a fantastic conversation. I love conversations where I come out ahead by learning something more than when I came into it. So this is great. You have just convinced me on the power of uncertainty and the power of maybe. So thank you for being on the show. Before we wrap up, any last words?
I'm just so happy today to meet you. You are a fascinating, interesting woman, and I love being here today. And I hope everyone, that was listening today has another little tool to suffer less and embrace who they are and live a more joyous life with more ease and peace and success.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yes. And congratulations and best of luck on your journey to thriving and writing books and this work. Educating people on the power of maybe, actually the gift of maybe. So that's great. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life podcast. If you're watching on iTunes, we'd love for you to put a little review or rate the show and also subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button as well. And maybe leave a comment. Tell us about your experiences with uncertainty. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.